I love it. Okay, the Cowboys, always a huge draw on Thanksgiving. But this year, I heard a turkey gobble. Don't let that get past me. This year could top them all with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs coming to Dallas for a Turkey Day matchup with Dak and company. We'll talk about that. Schedule release happening today, okay? It's a big day. The entire schedule will be released tonight. We'll be back with you for that 8 p.m. on ESPN2. Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, Peter Schrager, Adam Schefter. We had a lot to get to, guys. Everybody doing good, though?
Mm-hmm. We're doing great.
Okay.
We're doing great. Peter's got a three-piece
Full
suit on.
house.
He's got
I love it.
His wedding day for Peter.
Three-piece suit. It's schedule release day. It's like my bar mitzvah. Let's go.
My kid's got a lot of those to go to.
What I liked about that is it was a shoulder shimmy,
That
not
was
like
it.
a
I'm
chest
excited.
shimmy.
Better than your bris.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't have
Okay,
worked.
we're going to make sure no one else shimmies as we carry on here. Let's talk about the Cowboys. They brought in George Pickens to pair with CeeDee Lamb, which is now one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. They also added Tyler Booker in the first round of the draft to bolster that offensive line. The Chiefs completely reshaped their offensive line. They'll be on the other side of that game, bringing in Jalen Moore as a free agent, drafting tackle Josh Simmons in the first round. They also expect to have Rashee Rice back for training camp. He had surgery, remember, on his knee in October. This will be the second time the Chiefs and Cowboys meet on Thanksgiving. The other was in 1995. Troy Aikman and company beat Kansas City 24-12. Dallas, of course, went on to win the Super Bowl that year, and they haven't been back to the conference championship since. New on NFL Live, Dak jumped on Dallas radio this morning, addressed the addition of his new wideout, George Pickens.
I'm excited. I mean, you turn on the tape and you see a guy that can catch the football. You put the football anywhere in his vicinity, very strong hands, more than a 50-50 catcher. He thinks it's his ball when it's in the air, and I'm excited for him. I know that we need some help in that position. I know CD needs some help, and I think when you have a guy like that, and I heard George say it, it's hard to double team two guys, and then when you've got other guys, whether it be Ferg, Jalen Tolbert, Mingo, guys who have had reps and know how to get open in the league, I think we're putting together a nice group of weapons.
Dan, you just heard Dak addressing the idea of trying to double team both Pickens and Lamb. Just how hard will that duo make it on defenses?
Yeah, I think very, and that's why the addition of Pickens matters so much. Very rarely can you just line up defensively when I, as an offense, have really good player on one side, really good player on the other side. Lewis, you know this, and allocate 4 people to them. Because one of those guys is going to get singled up more than not. If not, then we get to run the football. And the reason why I like Ted McMillan in the draft to Dallas, and the reason why I like Pickens with the addition is CD is such a fluid, yards after the catch, win his routes, kind of get open one-on-one type of player. And then you have that big body, vertical frame opposite him. This now presents a lot of problems to defense before the ball ever gets snapped of just structurally, how do you want to handle us? And so no matter who the opponent is, I agree. I think that's one of the top 6-7 wide receiver duos we have in the NFL right now.
What's interesting about Dallas is like the conversation with them always obviously starts with Dak. It starts with the perimeter players. I mean, the things that really have plagued Dallas over the past couple of years have not been really perimeter play. It hasn't really been skill position play, on a large scale. It's always been in the trenches. And for me, look, it's going to be about, Dallas' season is going to hinge on how this offensive line plays and how the defense plays in particular, especially right down the middle from defensive tackle to linebacker to safety. That's really going to be where their season hinges. Because I'll tell you what, Dak, they have a lot of advantages now in terms of athletes on the perimeter. There's no question about that. But think about their offensive line last year in terms of pass block win rate, especially when you're talking about the tackle positions. Look, Dak is now coming off of an injury. He's had 2 significant lower leg injuries now between his hamstring and his lower leg. Look, I think pass protection is going to be key. Run game is going to be key with this team before we even get to throwing the football.
Sure.
What version of Pickens are we getting? Because on the way out, as this always happens, you hear the stories. He was late for practices. He was late to games. And you start getting all that stuff out of the old play. If you're not motivated in a contract year in Big D when they're telling you, and Stephen Jones is publicly saying, we want you, then it might not ever happen. So for me, it's the maturity of the player. CeeDee Lamb had 73 more targets than any other Cowboys receiver last year. That is the biggest gap between anyone else in the league. There are going to be balls for George Pickens. To me, it's what version of George Pickens are you getting? To me, I think you're going to get a motivated, and you're going to get a very good George Pickens from the start.
And there is so much on the line for George Pickens this year. But, Lou, you touched on the run game. I know we're talking about George Pickens here, but there are 3 new running backs in Dallas. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue. And I think they really like Jaden Blue.
I think Jaden Blue is going to end up being the starting tailback.
I think they really like Jaden Blue in the backfield there. So I know we're devoting a lot of time to George Pickens, but I think that we're missing these 3 new running backs that play a huge new role for this Dallas Cowboys team when you're playing the Chiefs on Thanksgiving Day, when you're playing the Washington Commanders on Christmas Day, when you've got all these holiday games. I think it's a big deal, the run game.
And don't forget Phil Maffa also, who they drafted in the 7th out of Clemson, who is a bruiser now.
Right.
But again, I mean, these backs, and I don't mean to cut you off,
No, you're good.
it's just going to start up front, though.
Sure.
Right.
Those backs, look, Jaden Blue, look, think about how they used him at Texas, right? He was a perimeter runner, a wide zone runner, a guy who liked to get the ball in space. He's not going to be banging it up in there in the inside, right? And he's not, because one, we don't know if there's going to be a lot of space in there anyway, because we don't know how good this offensive line is going to look. And Jaden doesn't want to run in there. I'm telling you, Dallas looks pretty on the perimeter. They got speed and playmakers galore. But tell me how their offense and defensive line are going to play.
Well, they think Tyler Booker is a Pro Bowl guard that they drafted.
Yeah,
Let's
remember,
that's a good one.
If Tedero McMillan had been there, that probably would have been the pick. He wasn't there, of course. So they said the next best player was going to be Tyler Booker, and they got their guy. All right, let's talk about the Chiefs side of things. Lewis, it felt like the entire offseason focused on rebuilding that O-line. What did you make of where they landed?
Look, I think getting Josh Simmons 32nd overall, which obviously they flopped picks with Philadelphia, that could end up being, and look, I've used this term a couple different times, but I'm going to use it one more time. That could end up being the steal of the draft. You arguably have the best offensive lineman in the draft. He was playing the best football of any tackle in Power 4 last year before he got injured. And right now, they are ecstatic where he is at in terms of his rehab right now. And he's got the best trainer in the National Football League, and Rick Burkholder, who's going to be overseeing his rehab as they go through training camp. If you, along with him and Jalen Moore, if they can go ahead and solidify the left side of this offensive line with some of the other additions that they have, remember this, keep an eye on this kid, Brashard Smith from SMU, who they drafted in the 7th. He is an Alvin Kamara clone with like 4.3 speed. They have got a lot of things going on right now in Kansas City. Hey, man, they may have addressed their issues as good as anybody.
You know, it'll be really interesting around this time of year is what version of Rashee Rice are they getting in Kansas City? I just totally remembered. You know, I just forgot that he was on the team.
Came out great last year.
Right.
But through 8 games, he had like 80 catches.
They expect him to be healthy early.
How healthy is he? How is he back to full type Rashee Rice?
Does he get disciplined this year? Does he get disciplined?
I don't know.
Well, what do you think?
Been waiting.
I don't know. But by week 13,
is that a rhetorical question?
do they
I know.
get that
Do
full
you
version
know?
of him?
I'm going to say you don't right now. But
Well, I think it's floating around out there. It's a possibility. It's out there,
As
right?
Stephen A would say, it's fluid, right?
It's fluid.
But
It's
more than that would be the health. By week 13, the health. What kind of player is he?
okay, new on NFL Live. This just crossing this hour as we get game schedule release happening. We've got the slate of Christmas Day games over on Netflix. More Cowboys on the national stage for that game against the Commanders, plus an interesting NFC North matchup between the Lions and Vikings. Let's talk about J.J. McCarthy here, Dan. I mean, by that point of the season, you think that he's doing everything that they've expected him to do?
Oh, yeah.
Are they in a really good spot? You expect them to be contenders?
I fully expect J.J. McCarthy to have the Vikings very similar situation-wise to what they were as a team last year, and honestly playing very similar to what Sam Darnold did production-wise. The way he plays the position, how he is so kind of foundationally built on